Friends, it's Friday. Hey, welcome to Fatso Radio, episode number 85. 85, that's right. And tonight I have a special guest. Every one of my guests are special, but tonight, very special, as always, Jamie Boston. I've known Jamie for about 35 years, believe it or not. I know it's hard to say, Carlo, you're only 20. How do you know him? I know. I'm 35 years old. No, I'm not. I'm 42 years old. I've known Jamie for a long, long time. Jamie and I had a great chat. Jamie and I, we went to elementary school together. We went to high school together. We've known each other ever since. We've done a lot of cool things together, shot guns. We played football together. We drank some adult beverages before we were adults. Shh, don't tell anybody. We had a great chat. We talked about guns. We talked about safety. We talked about the cadets. I don't want to get too much into it, but he's a great guy. I love him to death. And thank you. And please put your hands together for Jamie Boston. I love you all. Fatso Radio. Lily, take it away, babe.
Fatso, the really great podcast show.
Fatso, our very first podcast show. Yeah. Hey, everybody, welcome to Fatso Radio, episode number 85. And tonight I have a very, very special guest, Jamie Boston. Jamie, welcome to the show, my friend.
How are you?
Great, Jamie. Great. Thank you so much. And just for a quick intro, I've known Jamie for, I don't know, I think we just quickly caught up, but probably like 30 plus years, 35 years probably, you know,
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Right up through high school and then all these years. So Jamie, we even played football together in St. Basil. So you know all those stories that, you know, a lot of stories we can get into maybe later on that maybe some we could share. Yeah, exactly. Maybe some we can't. But one of the things I want to talk
Those
to you.
will go down without cell phone information.
Exactly. Thank you. Thankfully, before the days of cell phones, yes, and Instagram and all of that stuff. But Jim, one of the things I want to talk to you about, among other things as well, because we have such a long history and we have so many things in common, like you said, play sports and we've, you know, done things with our weight over the years. But specifically, I want to talk about your experience with guns, because one of the first, well, probably one of the first experiences or the first introductions into guns was through you, either high school or college, I can't remember. But you took me to the gun range. You were like super responsible with me. You kind of showed me all the you know, the rules and everything. And actually you helped me kind of get my gun license as well. It kind of helped me through the ranks and, you know, whatever, get the paperwork done and took the course up on the highway there. I forget the place now, but
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, in my experience with, you know, since that haven't really had much experience with guns since that. So, you know, it was like 10 or 20 years since then. And then I went hunting up, you know, a year or 5 years ago for a kind of a short little time, but I wanted to get into that. And then also we can touch briefly on what you do for a living, right? So you work for M&R and we can just touch you know, briefly on that, but enforcement, right? In the field. And is that the easiest way to kind of say that?
Yeah, we, you know, we're making sure people are being honest with Mother Nature's gifts.
Exactly, right? Hunting and fishing and then just respect for the whole environment, right? So I totally commend you for that. And we can get into that later on, how it really does help out, you know, the things like the tags and the fees and the licensing and all that stuff, that really does help because it goes back to conservation and management. So I want to get into that. But just to start on the guns itself, as far as safety, what can you say as far as, if someone wants to sometimes simply say the statement of, well, if there's no guns, there's not going to be any violence or no gun deaths. What do you say to that? Because I know it's so simple, but how do we break that down?
So it's very simple, really. If you take away the guns, people will find another alternative for violence.
Yeah.
Or they'll make guns, or they'll find another way to, you know, generate chaos and anarchy.
Yeah.
The firearm is a tool. It's always been a tool. If you use it properly, then, you know, there's no issue with it. If you use it with malice intent, then of course, no different than, you know, your common HB pencil. If you use it properly, it'll write for you all day. If you use it with malice intent, then, you know, there you are.
Yeah, that makes, you know, it does make a lot of sense. And I've always kind of understood that as well. And it's funny because people will say, well, you don't need a gun. Well, you don't need a driver's license. You don't need a lot of things, right? You don't need a car. You don't need a chainsaw. You don't need all these things. And it is important to know that, or to speak with someone like you that has experience, not just to say, you know, theoretically you could do this or theoretically you could do that. Because from your experience over the years, how much gun violence have you seen? Like, let's really talk about it, right? Have you seen it? Have you seen shootings? Have you seen people that you either trained or been with being really crazy? Like, you know?
I can tell you that on the professional side and
Yeah.
on the private side, people that are passionate about firearms, whether it be sport related, hunting, whatever, they're passionate about it for a reason. They spend big money on, supporting local clubs and tournaments and things of that sort. The hunting population, there's millions and millions and millions of dollars being injected into the economy for hunting. And, the genuine firearm owners, whether it be for sporting reasons or hunting reasons or life sustenance, whatever it may be, they're conscientious about the responsibilities of firearm ownership, and they really don't want to do anything to jeopardize, the privilege that they have.
Yeah.
And targeting those people, myself included, yourself included, really isn't addressing gun violence at all. Really, we got to look at the cross-border stuff, the importation of illegal firearms. That's where the problem is. It's not you and I who have sporting and hunting rifles and maybe a couple whatever. That's not the issue. The issue is the criminal side of it, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. And and being Canadian is, specifically or especially, we've always kind of known that, like, we've always had pretty strict gun rules, right? Gun laws. It's not, you can't just go into a Walmart and pick up a gun and walk home. You got to apply for it. First of all, you have to have a license. You have to go for testing and all that stuff, right? So, do you see instances? If I can, I don't know if I'm cutting you off, but do you see instances where, the reason why I'm getting to this question is because a lot of the counter arguments oftentimes is, well, sure, but not everybody's licensed. How many unlicensed people are actually hunting? How many unlicensed people are actually out there? I wonder. I mean, criminals are one thing, right? If you're going to get a criminal that's going to do a shooting, a handgun, it's not going to be registered. I get that for sure. But do you get a lot of hunters out there? No license, no, no IDs. And like, does that even happen?
You got to remember, you need a license just to buy ammunition in Canada.
There you go.
So even if you owned the firearm, you still need some proof that, that you're allowed to own, to purchase the ammunition for said firearm. The restrictions are really, they're there for a reason, and I get them. And if anybody that enjoys the sport or the hunt respects those, and really they're targeting the wrong people. You got to target those guys that are, buying guns off the street, guys that are, making guns out of 3M plastic machines, that kind of stuff. Not the general guy that goes out and, harvests a couple birds in the fall, maybe shoots a deer and moose, or, the guy that's at the range. It's quite competitive. The shooting programs, around the world, really, very competitive, generate huge money for communities, through restaurants and hotels and dues and all that kind of stuff. It's the sport shooting community is huge, and it really does generate a lot of money for communities. And obviously the hunting side of things, there's no question the amount of money that hunting raises for the province and for the government, really. There's a lot of money involved, and people aren't shy to spend it to experience that, that whatever they're hunting. But when you start infringing on people's rights for, basic ownership of firearms, you're going to raise a lot of feathers. That's for sure.
I think so, and I think that it even hurts Canadians even more so. I think maybe it hurts Americans, of course, if you're trying to take the guns away, and I see that every day. But I almost feel like it hurts Canadians in a different way because we're so almost like we're so compliant. It seems like, what I mean, or at least we're so used to having to be compliant. Our gun laws have always kind of been there. Our rules specifically, or our rules generally, are a little more, a little tighter than the U.S. and everything. So now it's something like, okay, the people who have the licenses, I'm thinking specifically of a recent, the recent Trudeau government saying, now we're going to try and ban all these guns or more guns, right? When you're doing that, and we've talked about this offline, but when you're doing that, you're literally talking to just the legitimate gun owners. You're literally talking to just the licensed people who are good, solid neighbors of yours and friends and family of yours. You're talking to them, and you're saying, now I have to make your collection smaller. But it does nothing for the criminals.
you're literally identifying the people who went through the process to legally obtain that rifle or shotgun or pistol or whatever it may be, and have gone through the hoops to legally own it. You're targeting the people that went through every, crossed every T, dotted every I to make sure that what they were doing was legal, to own whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the bad guys, if you will, are running guns and smuggling guns and everything else. You're not targeting the right group.
Well, yeah, I mean, and quite humorously, not humorously, I guess, but the guns that are used to rob a liquor store, the guns that are used to hold up any store, are not the guns you're taking out there hunting, for the most part, right? I mean, I'm sure oftentimes long guns are used, I think, in mass shootings, which is terrible, of course, but the everyday gun violence and is with handguns. Am I right? I think so.
Well,
Mostly.
regardless of what, I honestly
it's
can't
not.
speak to what classification it is,
Yeah.
but likelihood is either the gun was obtained illegally and is
yeah.
used in a crime, or it was stolen from someone who owned it legally and then modified it or did whatever they had to do to use that firearm. So, like I said, I've owned firearms for a very long time.
Yeah.
Never had an issue.
Yeah.
They're absolutely targeting the wrong group, and the restrictions around prohibited and restricted firearms, are that much more than non-restricted firearms. And if you're following those guidelines, good luck getting a hold of something that any firearm, good luck getting your hands on it.
Yeah.
Without, struggles. You got to get into a locker. You got to do this. It's not like a legal firearm owner isn't just leaving guns laying around in the corner or at the front door or whatever.
Exactly.
These things are secured. So if someone's, the argument I've heard is people breaking into houses. Good luck. If you're going to spend, 30 minutes trying to get into a gun locker and you don't even know if there's guns in it, as a criminal, you're sort of wasting your time.
Yeah.
And,
That's true. Yeah, I mean, so what we were saying, sorry, you got cut off there for a second, but we were saying is that it's not something people are breaking into the houses and stealing all these things. But if they were, of course, that would explain, I guess, the fact that I'm not going to register a gun, right? I'm not going to buy a gun, register it, and go commit a crime. So the fact of it targeting me is really not likely exactly if I was smart at all. But so I guess the next thing is that I mean, you can't speak for the government, of course, you can't speak of their motive, but why is something like saying removing these guns, what do you think a motive is, or what is it? Does it just look like they're doing something good because there's a whole list of guns, or what would be their motive behind these guns?
Obviously, I don't know the motive. What I can say though for sure is, instead of buying guns off of me, buying, the gun amnesty period or whatever, and promising me money back for my firearms, put that towards the border. Get those officers the assistance they need to, to intercept that kind of stuff. Don't waste your money on the legal guys. Waste your money on those border officers who are trying to intercept this stuff. Because it's not the hunter, it's not the guy who's paid thousands and thousands of dollars to own firearms.
That's true.
It's the illegal ones that are crossing the border. It's illegal ones that are being made, whatever. Spend your money there. Don't spend it on the legal guys. Spend it on put that money towards enforcement and try to get those guns off the street before they cross the border. Yeah,
sometimes I'm trying to equate it to what is it like, or what else can I compare it to? But it's almost like, people aren't going the speed limit of 80, so let's drop it to 70. It's like, no, just enforce it. Right? Enforce it. Maybe that's it's like, don't drop it because you're penalizing everybody else who went 80. Everybody else is fine, right? Whether you have a Ferrari or not. If you go 80, maybe that's a good comparison, right? You have a Ferrari, you still go 80, you're good. If you drop to 70, you're penalizing people. So yeah, it's crazy. And when they do penalize people that are the law-abiding citizens, right? It just pisses everybody off, and it makes it more difficult for the sport. And it's just it's terrible, right? But like other things, politically driven, right? There's an election coming up. Hey, he's going to say this, or maybe he's going to say this. Hopefully you get some votes either way. But at the end of the day,
that's all true.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's funny because, when the experts come out with their analysis, like I've seen a few articles now in the months that come since these, shootings and everything, the experts are saying it's not doing anything. It's not doing anything. But if this bill just doesn't pass and the law doesn't pass it, then you'll never hear anything. The government's not known for saying, "Oh yeah, I was wrong. We overreacted." They just will never do that ever, right?
No.
It's funny. Oftentimes we like to compare ourselves to the Americans, and it's not exactly like the Americans, right? I guess the Americans have a constitutional right, to have bear arms, and it really is more like is it a privilege? I guess that's the best way to describe it in Canada. It's kind of like a privilege, kind of like
for Canadians, like it's just not a God-given right.
Mhm.
And I'm all about rights and freedoms, but it's good that we do have some provisions in place, so that that the basic safety handling and things of that sort are covered. So when somebody's getting a firearms license, that they've at least handled a firearm, they've at least gone through some sort of safety training, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's some value to that, unless you're exposed, through family or through whatever means you're exposed to firearms. That's all a big learning curve for people.
Mhm.
And I think, having the basic course, firearms handling course, if you will, is important. Me personally, if it was my decision to be made, I'd make it like not necessarily every 5 years, but maybe every 10 years or so, where you have to, refresh your skills.
Yeah.
Because let's be realistic, a lot of guys have a firearms license and haven't touched their rifle in years.
Yeah. Probably 10, 20 years, I bet. Yeah, you're right.
When's the last time you fucking shot something?
15 years at least. I even shot at something. Yeah, you're right.
I'd like to see that, whether it be, just as a guy that's been a gun guy my whole life, when I see people, poorly handling firearms, or you hear about stories of people being shot or whatever.
Yeah.
We have to do it for a driver's license.
Yeah.
That's a 2,000-pound bullet going down the road at 80 kilometers an hour, or a 2-ounce bullet going at 2,000. What's the difference,
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
But the restrictions, and sorry, go ahead.
No, you were saying the restrictions. Sorry.
The restrictions that are coming, like, you're not solving anything because you're really targeting your law-abiding citizen. You're not targeting, the guns that are coming from wherever, or being obtained illegally. You're really penalizing the people that are following. So, with your analogy, you're penalizing the people that are doing 80 in an 80 instead of the people doing 110 in the 80.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get into a little bit of your experience. When did you first get exposed to guns? Like, you must have been pretty young, right? Because it seems like by the time I looked into guns, you already knew about them. So, and I've known you forever. So.
Yeah, well, I guess as a kid I was exposed, and then I really got serious about it in the cadet program.
Oh yeah. Okay. Talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on the range shooting 22 and 303 back then, a little bit of FN. Anyway, I had great instruction and sort of all the safety aspects covered, and I really fell in love with it. It was, there was a lot of gratification to it, and there's a science to it. There's just so much involved. It's just not, pulling the trigger, waiting for it to go bang. So I had a lot of fun with it, and treated me pretty well over the years. But I would say, yeah, my first exposure definitely would have been the cadet program.
Cool. And is it part of a family thing? Is hunting part of a thing? Your dad, your brother? Like, is this, I don't know, your uncles?
So, yeah, my dad's actually anti-firearm, like whole through and through.
Okay.
But my brother and I both.
Thanksgiving dinner must be interesting.
Sorry?
Thanksgiving dinner must be interesting.
Yeah, my dad doesn't like guns too much, but my brother and I hunt every year together. We do the first week of deer, and we've been doing that for a number of years now. He's a gun guy, I'm a gun guy, and just getting out in the great outdoors and enjoying what's out there and enjoying each other's company and what it's all about, really. But yeah, no, my dad's not a gun guy whatsoever.
Okay, so yeah, it wasn't like something you were in the bush as a kid or anything. Like you got to the point where you found interest in it, like you said, through cadets, and then you took a personal interest, I guess, right? And then over the years,
Well, once you learn sort of like the cadet program, 100% taught me the ins and outs, the ups and downs, if you will.
safety, all that. Yeah.
And then once you learn those skills, it's no different than any other sport, really. Like if you're a hockey player and they teach you how to stick handle, well, you're going to refine that skill till it's mastered. It's no different than shooting or anything like that, right? It's a sport.
Sure.
Similar skills involved. It's just what you're good at, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So you must have found out pretty early that you had a knack for it. Because I remember when I went with you, it looked like you've been doing it for 3 lifetimes. So is it something that you picked up pretty easy? Did you found like you were pretty good when you were young?
I learned the fundamentals young.
Okay.
So just like any other sport or
Playing football and
life
everything.
skill or whatever, when you learn them young, you master them young.
Gotcha.
Helps. Versus learning them late and mastering them late.
Yeah, makes sense.
And the fundamentals were there for me to build on, right? So.
Yeah. So what was the cadets program like? Because I've heard of a bunch of my friends over the years, honestly, said that they were in it, and they all have great things about it. Can you explain a little bit about it? Like, it's like kind of a weekend thing, a summer thing. How did that go?
The cadet program is literally the best kept secret for Canadian youth.
Must be.
It is everything you would want your kid to do, and it's all free.
Wow.
Legit. Whether it's music, whether it's shooting, biathlon, excursions, you name it, the cadet program touches on it. And the entire program is free. Whether you're the newest kid or the oldest, seasoned vet, if you will.
Yeah.
As much as you put in is as much as you're going to get out.
Wow.
And to a parent, it's free. You want to send them with a loonie or something to buy a can of pop at the break. Sure. Other than that, they will send them, literally cadet program is worldwide.
Wow. So is it part of the military or not? It's not part of the military.
It is actually. So the cadet program is absolutely part of the military. The officers and whatnot are all sworn members of the Canadian Forces.
Okay.
And obviously the cadets fall in under that.
Sure.
But it's heavily supported by the Canadian Armed Forces. Nice. Through staffing and support and whatnot. And then obviously there's support groups to, augment that training. But it is the absolute best program for youth, bar none, no questions asked.
Wow. So what was your experience like as a kid? Like would you go on weekends or during the week, like kind of like a Beavers thing or kind of like a Scouts thing? Or how often would you go?
I was literally there as much as I could be. I was probably, 5 to 6 days a week doing various things, and I'm not talking 8 hours a day. You go Monday night for training, you go Wednesday for drill, you go Thursday for shooting, Friday for this, whatever, right? Couple hours here, couple hours there. Yeah. But it definitely kept me out of trouble. I was fit back then, that's for sure.
Yeah, and, for sure.
Like I said, the program itself, it just puts kids in a position to win.
That's good. So it teaches them like skills, life skills, right?
That's right. And when they go to their first interview, they can speak confidently because they've spoken in front of a group before, or they've spoken in front of a stranger before. Gives them the edge over the kid that's never spoken past, their grade 6 oral or whatever.
Yeah.
The program produces great kids and, contributing adults to the society of Canada and just, people that make a difference.
Wow. That's pretty cool. So basically, like you said, there's different nights of the week at different drills or different occasions. One night you'd go there for like a workout and like, I don't know, drills, that'd be marching and stuff like that, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. And then is it something for like high school ages or what is it, like 10 to 15 or how does that?
Yeah, well, I don't know what's going on down there, but in the Sioux here we have Navy League. Okay. And those kids are 9 to 12. Okay. And then from 12 to 19, 19 is the age out, so 12 to 18 plus or whatever
Okay.
is the cadet program. And the Sioux, we're lucky to have all three, Army, Sea, and Air.
Cool.
And yeah, you just do your thing. And Monday nights for Army cadets is their general training night, and then they're out in the bush steady,
That's cool.
doing a lot of shooting, doing a lot of biathlon stuff, just keeping kids busy, and busy and active, and getting them off their couch instead of playing Xbox. They're actually, building the camp or whatever.
Yeah, like getting dirty and like building a fire, right? I mean, some of these things you probably I take for granted now, but they taught you how to build a fire, probably, right? Teach you how to teach create a little shelter, whatever.
You got it.
Wow, and
Yeah,
that's
and
stuff
like
like
I said,
a lot of kids have no idea these days.
It's really sad because the program spends millions and millions of dollars a year, promoting the excellence of youth through travel and experiences that you and I would only dream of. When it's being provided to them because they're good kids.
That's great. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, did you meet your wife through the cadets?
100%.
Wow, so you must have been young. Like, how old were you guys?
Well, 12, 13 years old, yeah.
Wow. Holy cow. So it's produced a family as well. I'm sure many families it's produced.
Yeah, we're on up 20 years married, so put things into perspective for you.
Yeah, that's a long time. That's amazing. So I'm sure your wife has pleasant things to say about it as well. Yeah, on and off. For sure. So is it safe to say that you picked up the shooting part of that? Was that your favorite thing, or one of your favorite parts of it?
The shooting part for sure, and then the music side too. Obviously, I played in the pipe band and
that's right.
Stuff
I forgot
like
about
that.
that.
And,
yeah, talk about that. So they actually had a band as well?
Yeah, they still do. And, back then we got to travel quite extensively, saw the whole West Coast, part of the East Coast, playing with the Cadet Pipe Band down into the States. There's no question that without the program, I wouldn't have done any of that.
Yeah.
A little bit of hard work pays off, and I think people need to remember that.
Yeah, that's great. And if you want to get into it, you can. But any of your children, did they take part in the cadets?
My daughter's in the cadet program now. She's
that's cool.
She's doing her thing. She does shooting. She does biathlon. She's in Highland dancing.
Wow.
She's in the music program, drill team. Like I said, basically as many times as you can get down there.
Wow.
There's something going on. Obviously, with COVID and all that nonsense, there's a lot of rules and regulations around it. But other than that, can't beat it.
That's amazing. And you know what? You nailed it. You hit the head right on the nail right on the head as far as it being a best kept secret, because you don't hear anybody talking about it. I mean, the only time I think of cadets really is when I think of you. I mean, wow, okay, I had a buddy growing up. I used to go to cadets. A couple friends or whatever. But it really is. I wonder why it's so. I mean, maybe it's not, I don't know, it's not promoted. What is it? There's no affiliation, no connections with something. I don't know.
I don't know. I think of, friends of mine, even now, who are spending, thousands and thousands of dollars on extracurricular sports and, whatever, music lessons or you name it. And a lot of those opportunities are literally free. In the cadet program.
In the cadet program. Wow.
I can speak of probably half a dozen people that traveled the world.
Wow.
And literally they had spending money on their pocket with all kinds of crazy experiences.
Yeah.
And it was all paid for.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So it's just a matter of getting the word out and letting people realize that the program's there and it's designed to build Canada's youth into the next leaders. That's the whole program.
Well, I wonder if there's a misconception that it is kind of like training soldiers, because there's probably not 100%. I mean, well, you didn't go into the military, right? Or did you? I don't know. You didn't go in any military, did you? Or
I've heard that line. I've heard that line 100 times. Yes, they're going to learn military skills.
Sure.
But those same military skills that they're learning are applicable to every day.
Life
how to light a
skills.
fire, how to build their life skills.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, their life skills.
Mhm.
Are we training people to become soldiers? No. Do many youth find an opportunity in the forces because of their experience in cadets? Sure.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
at no point is anybody like, we're not grooming youth to become,
Yeah.
soldiers, if you will. It's really about lifting them up and teaching them, the things that your parents taught you
Yeah.
without teaching you, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
It does, because like, you have another set of adults, right? Showing by example. You have another set of teachers other than school. And that really makes a lot of sense. And then, I can compare it probably to like martial arts classes and all these, like you said, these other activities, but it's completely free. Like I don't know if people know that. There's no fees at all.
I don't get it.
Like, yeah. And and is it like per term kind of thing? Like you sign your kid up for this season, and then if they stay in, they stay in. Is that kind of how it
Well,
goes?
what usually happens is they'll start, like, there's different levels.
Okay.
The Army Cadet program uses colored stars, so green, red, silver, gold, and beyond.
Okay.
And they'll fit you into wherever you fit. So if you don't start as a new kid at 12 years old, you come a few years down the road or wherever, we'll find you a spot
Yeah.
appropriate to your age group.
Cool.
And then from there, like the learning is universal. Everything that we're teaching you or they're learning are all applicable skills to everyday life.
Nice.
You know,
Well, and I'm glad you said that I'm glad you mentioned your daughters in it. I have two daughters, right? So the question is oftentimes, is it meant for girls? I mean, you can let me know. I mean, it's for everybody.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the program is all inclusive. There's no restrictions for anybody.
Cool.
And my daughter's a perfect example of a female who, she'll dig her teeth in and she'll go for it, regardless of gender or anything like that.
Hmm.
And really that's bred into all of them, whether they're male, female, or different. Go hard or go home.
Yeah.
And I take pride in that, knowing that everything they do, they're leaving everything on the table.
Yeah.
And when you see the work these and their kids, these kids are doing, it's remarkable, and it's a testament to what we're actually capable of doing.
Yeah. I mean, well, and it sounds like this is a proper way to do it, right? This is a proper way to teach gun safety. This is a proper way to teach life skills, like in the bush, and where, you're like creating a shelter, lighting a fire. You get soaked. What happens if you fall in the river? Like you're gonna. I'm sure you walk through miles of water, right? So these things,
Yeah.
these things that you learn are valuable. And maybe if we actually focused, maybe we should, focus. We definitely should. But maybe if a focus on things like the cadet program, if there was more of a focus on that, then it would actually make the conversation a little more educated as far as guns, because then people would say, hey, wait a second, these, we have good programs in place, we have good, good systems in place, rather than say, oh, let's just take all the guns out, because it's just a simple,
Yeah.
to loop this back around to the gun thing, I think, because it shows that you have such respect for guns, but then that means your daughter was shown how to use a gun probably too, right? And then your wife was shown how to gun.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And when you introduce the actual firearm to a youth versus what they learn on a video game or whatever,
Yeah, YouTube or
that's a
something.
whole other argument. But it really puts things into perspective of the capabilities of an actual firearm, and the required safety measures and why you do what you do.
Yeah.
It really puts things into perspective for kids. And honestly, whether a child chooses to go into the hunting or sport shooting side of things, I think everybody should have a basic, even a very basic, introduction through the school system. Just like go back to old school.
Yeah. It is. It really.
The kids would, walk their way to school with their 410 or whatever, and they turn it into the teacher at, when they got there, and then at the end of school they'd get their rifle back, their shotgun back, and then go and hunt birds on the way home. Like,
Yeah. And I think when people hear that stories like that, a lot of people don't believe it, but those actually happened. Those were everyday life.
100%.
100, like it was everyday life, right? And for the people who don't know, a 410 is a small shotgun, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Smaller caliber shotgun.
No
And
less. Yeah.
so, and that's the thing, like it was common, you know, it wasn't these imaginary stories of they walked uphill both ways, you know, in the snow. It was, no, we actually took our guns to school, right? Like they, you know, and it probably wasn't that long ago, what, 50 years ago, maybe less. But like, and that's the thing, I'm glad that there is, and I'm glad that we touched on the whole cadet program, because it's a good way to say, okay, we're not just saying, don't take away my guns. We're saying, please don't take away our guns, because we have some reasonable ideas. We have some reasonable laws already in place. But that's just like everything else, right? It's like when you unpeel the layers and you really get into the context of it, and you know, the nuanced issues, it's not just simple with one little policy is going to change it, right? It comes from education. And that's why the cadet program and programs like that is perfect, because I'll promote education all day long, right? And you are as well. And you know, I'm glad you have your perspective, because not only did you grow up kind of, you know, with guns, you know, and then find an interest yourself, but you work in the industry, you see what it's like, you know, M&R, Ministry of Natural Resources, right? If people don't know. So you know what it's like and you see it, you know, and you still, if I'm correct, if I'm not incorrect, you still sport shoot? You still do it on the side as well or no?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can keep it up and you know what's going on. I mean, for your job, it probably personally for your job, you would want to keep up to speed anyway, wouldn't you? In the field or is it not even not really necessary for you?
It's not necessary for me, but just like any other skill, if you're the setter on a football team, if you don't practice your snaps, you lose it.
That's right. I know what happens when you lose it.
Then what? You know,
you miss an extra point, and then you don't win the finals.
I like to stay active as best I can. Obviously,
sure.
You know, life gets in the way, but yeah, it is what it is. It's no different than any other skill.
Yeah.
You'll never forget how to snap that ball, but your first couple out of the gate might be a little rough, you know?
Yeah. And you got to practice to stay sharp, right? Like anything else.
Everything.
Yeah. And that's a good testament too, about because the safety is practicing, right? So it's actually encouraging people to practice, get to know your weapons, get to know how to every aspect of it, because that makes it more safe. It's like probably getting to know your car. It makes you a more safe driver, the better you know your car.
100%. You know where your wiper control is versus your light switch.
Yeah.
It's no different, you know, like every firearm is different. There's no two firearms the same, if you will.
Yeah.
For the most part. And, you know, be comfortable with what you're using. It's a tool. Yeah. And if, you know, the first time you pick up a hammer, you drive a nail through your thumb, you're going to figure out real quick that's not what to do. That's Unfortunately, right. With firearms, it's a little bit different. You got, you know, a little more responsibility. Mm-hmm. But, you know, that's why I praise, you know, the basic program. You have to at least handle something, at least go through a safety program before you can just go out and do your thing, you know?
Yeah. Exactly.
It's just,
well, and to, it makes sense, Jamie, and to kind of help kind of maybe wrap things up again, I kind of want to circle back to the idea of, in my opinion, it sounds like in your opinion as well, and you touched on this earlier, but the guns probably, I mean, if we wanted to put efforts to, you know, stop the gun violence, the border is probably one of the best places to start, right? I mean, those guns for the most part aren't being made in Canada. And I know we have a little of a microcosm here in Canada, but for the most part, they're going to be made in the US or other places. And if they're made in other places, they're coming through the US probably, right?
So they're getting smuggled in.
Exactly, they're getting smuggled in.
Yeah, the millions and billions of dollars they're wasting on the gun, the newest gun or firearm, you know, prohibition. If they would put that towards the CBSA or the RCMP or whoever's, you know, securing our borders in wherever jurisdiction they are, that's money well spent. Don't bother me with, you know, the legal gun owner who's owned, you know, legal guns for 100 years, pays all my dues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not your guy.
Yeah.
Redirect that money towards resources that are going to intercept it, and then you'll reduce the gun crime. It's that simple. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully, you know, shows like this and other ones, you know, get the word out. And because I think a lot of people are, you know, coming kind of smart on this. You know, a lot of people I talk to are like, yeah, it makes sense. But if we don't talk about it, right, then they'll see something on TV that the government says and they'll just believe it. So I'm glad that we're kind of spreading the word. And thank you for what you do, Jamie, and for, for having your kids involved, and for you and your wife being a part of that cadet program, and actually for speaking about the cadet program, because I of course always aware of it, but I kind of forgot about it, and it's good to bring it up, and even for my kids or other kids, right, that are going through the stages. Like it seems like such a great thing for them to learn, and I mean,
it's a no-brainer.
exactly. And you're probably 40 years old or 41 maybe now, right? If I'm right. Something like that, close anyway. And so if
You're on the button, yeah.
there you go. So if you remember all these years later, I mean, it's such a memorable thing. Like you said, you met your wife there, your kids are in it. It's a great thing. So Jamie, I want to say thanks so much for being on the show, my friend. If your first time on Fatso Radio, what do you think? So far, so good.
What are we doing tomorrow night?
Exactly. We can do this all day, my friend. It's been a pleasure. Like I said, Jamie, I've known you forever, my friend. I love you. Say hi to the family for me. And everybody, thanks for listening. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, man.
All right. Talk to you soon,
We'll
buddy.
chat soon.
All right. Cheers. Let's say bye to everybody. And we'll say thanks for listening. Say thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.